Prologue, the God Realm. Tang Sect's family, the gentle halos of light, were akin to a mother's pair of hands when they gently touched the delicate skin of the clouds, creating an exceptionally beautiful feeling that seemed tangible within the illusory space. There also seemed to be an indistinct yet majestic palace not far away, but nearly seemed like an illusion as the gentle halo of light touched it. A figure quietly stood within the clouds for a long time, gazing into the endless distance at something. He had long blue hair that draped to the floor like a waterfall. If not for his imposing stature and his wide shoulders, he might have been confused with a girl, if you only looked at him from behind. His luxurious blue robes seemed to contain rippling water. If one were to carefully look at it, their gaze would instantly be drawn to his deep azure-colored robes. Their entire soul might even be absorbed into the deep and boundless blue color that seemed to resemble an ocean. However, from the pair of equally deep eyes on his handsome face, it didn't look like he was over 20. His eyes were like black holes, yet at the same time, they seemed all-embracing. Occasionally, a purple flash would flicker through his eyes, which would astonish one's soul. This would instantly create a beautiful feeling, one that could determine one's life or death. The man lightly sighed, a faintly distressed look appearing upon his face. He slightly furrowed his brow, as if he was currently comprehending the secrets of heaven and earth. "Third brother," a soft voice echoed out. A figure stepped out from the illusory space, arriving beside the blue-clothed young man. She habitually held the man's arm in a gentle manner. The smoothness of her action made it seem as though she'd done it countless times in the past. She was wearing a pink-colored long dress and she had long hair that had been braided, which was gently draped behind her back. You could see her exquisitely slender and beautiful white neck from behind, while her long dress tightly wrapped around her waist, further accenting her perfect figure. A faint smile appeared on her beautiful face as she pulled on the blue-shirted man's arm. She gently laid her head on his shoulder, causing her braids to fall next to the man's long blue hair. They quietly curled around his hair, twisting the man's long hair. A loving smile that contained a trace of helplessness appeared on the blue-shirted man's handsome face. "Even though you're a mother already, you're still so naughty." The woman wearing the pink dress was somewhat discontent as she pouted. "So what if I'm a mother now? Does that mean that I can't throw a tantrum? Aren't you still called Tang Sect, even though you're now the enforcer of the God Realm, and the God of the Sea? You're still my third brother." Once Xiao Wu heard Tang Sect bring up their daughter, a gentle look instantly filled her eyes. "Xiao Qi is simply too clingy. We only have time together when she's sleeping." "Third brother, I saw that you were displeased earlier. Is it because of issues within the Duluo continent?" Tang Sect nodded his head as he lightly sighed and said, "A single day in the God Realm is equivalent to a year in the mortal world. This is true for every single plane. I had originally wanted to stay in the Duluo continent for a period of time, but I was forced to return to the God Realm in order to take care of the general situation here, due to a bet between the God Kings, kindness, and evil. However, I didn't think that the Tang Sect would have decayed after only 20 or so years within the God Realm, which is equivalent to 10,000 years in the Duluo continent." Xiao Wu unhappily said, "Kindness and evil are simply too crafty. They're too irresponsible, using their bet as an excuse to descend to the mortal world. They previously found a married couple to replace their godly position. However, the couple's previous experience was simply too pitiful. If not for that, you could have let them take care of the general situation here, and could have relaxed a bit more." Tang Sect said, "From the outside, the Enforcer and God King positions appear to be quite lofty positions, but they aren't responsibilities that everyone is willing to undertake. The Duluo continent has clearly become somewhat chaotic due to the changes that have occurred within the past 10,000 years, especially the continental collision that happened due to the shifting of the Earth's crust 4,000 years ago. Not only did it cause the Duluo continent to more than double in size, it also caused many changes to happen to the Duluo continent. Xiao Wu said. The Tang Sect also began declining at that time. Third brother, you shouldn't think too much about it. In a way, the Tang Sect's decline can also be attributed to the progress of both time and the plane itself. Tang San nodded his head. You're right, but after all, the Tang Sect was created by me. I really would hate for it to be destroyed because of this. But sadly I can't interfere in the changes of a plane, since I'm the enforcer of the God realm. However, it seems that a new star will soon rise within the Duluo continent, and he will be extremely closely linked to my Tang Sect. I'll try to get a clearer look at his destiny, but so far it's heavily clouded. I hope that everything will develop in a good direction. Xiao Wu's eyes brightened as she replied, he'll definitely be a good candidate, since even you say that he's a new star. If he could even take over your godly position in the future, wouldn't we then have time to go play around? Tang San raised his hand and lovingly pinched her nose. You only know how to play. While they were talking, a small head popped out from some nearby clouds. She looked about 11 or 12, and her beautiful round eyes blinked. Her appearance was extremely similar to Tang San's, but her body was much softer, and her eyes were closer to Xiao Wu's. I've always heard Dad and Mom talking about the Duluo continent. It seems really fun. Hee hee. Her petite body quietly disappeared into the clouds as she spoke. Chapter 1.1. The youth with the spirit eyes. The golden, glazed roof tiles atop the huge, palace-like building shone with a dazzling light due to the sunlight. The ancient workmanship that had been used to create the palace's golden roof and red doors caused people to involuntarily feel a sense of seriousness when they saw it. When gazed at from afar, a fog seemed to linger around the palace. The buildings that surrounded the palace were lined up neatly, just like the pattern a brick wall had. The area that they occupied seemed limitless to the naked eye. The two words, Duke's Mansion, were carved into the 50-foot-tall archway that stood in front of the entrance. This enormous mansion that occupied an area of over 2 kilometers didn't belong to a city. Instead, it was a singular building located 50 meters northwest of the capital of the Star Luo Empire, Star Luo City. From this you could see that the owner of this mansion held an honored position within the Star Luo Empire. During the current time of day, the bright and beautiful sunlight would shine on the sparkling glazed roof tiles, causing a layer of dazzling gold to cover the entirety of the Duke's mansion. You could even vaguely see this scene atop Star Luo City's city walls. The back door of the Duke's mansion's northern area noiselessly opened, and a skinny figure quietly snuck out. The figure was a youth that appeared to be around 11 or 12. His stature was reasonably proportioned, and he was wearing a gray cloth shirt that was simple but clean. He also had a small bundle of cloth on his back. His short black hair appeared neat and tidy. A determined look, which was filled with an intensity that surpassed all of his peers at the same age, was present on his handsome face. After softly closing the back door of the Duke's mansion behind him, the youth rapidly ran a few steps forward. However, he suddenly stopped to look back at the Duke's mansion, his deep blue eyes brimming with hatred. Mother, watch me from the land of the deceased. No matter how hard I have to work, there will be a day when I return, and trample everything here underneath my foot. Therefore, I'll honor you by changing my surname to yours, Huo. From now on, my name will be Huo Yuhao. After finishing his sentence, he turned to face the Duke's mansion, and gazed at it deeply. Then, he turned around and walked away without any second thoughts. He didn't head towards Star Luo City, which was located to the southwest of the Duke's mansion. Instead, he went north. His tiny figure gradually disappeared into the distance as the strong midday sunlight shone on him. Although his body was skinny, the way in which he'd left didn't give off a helpless feeling at all. There were wide roads on all sides of the Duke's mansion. Huo Yuhao continued to run forward, his eyes gradually turning redder and redder. Mother. The unwilling and unresigned look that his mother had had as she passed away unconsciously appeared in Huo Yuhao's mind, causing him to tightly clench his teeth. I have to become stronger. Mother taught me that a person can only rely on themselves. One can only live a better life if they are strong. Scenes from Huo Yuhao's memory unceasingly flashed through his mind. Huo Yuhao's mother had been one of the Duke's personal maids, and had grown up together with the Duke. A personal maid only existed for the simple sake of serving her master. But Huo Yuhao had quietly appeared within his mother's belly one night, 12 years ago. She was pregnant for 10 months, before she finally gave birth one day. Despite what identity Huo Yuhao's mother previously had, he was still the son of the Duke. Therefore, although his treatment within the palace couldn't be described as good, it still wasn't too bad. His mother no longer remained a maid, and relied on her child's nobility to obtain a courtyard for herself. As such, everything should have continued without any trouble. But who could have known that disaster would arrive so soon? The Duke went to war as a representative of the Star Luo Empire, leaving all of the mansion's internal affairs to the Duke's wife. The Duke's wife already had 2 sons and a daughter, and she treated anything that could affect her children as things that needed to be suppressed. Things were quite good for Huo Yuhao and his mother while the Duke was in the mansion, but when he left, the mansion became the world of the Duke's wife. Furthermore, she was the favorite daughter of the Star Luo Empire's current emperor. Huo Yuhao's mother had grown up beside the Duke, resulting in her being heavily doted upon by him. Thus, she was always envied by the Duke's wife. Once the Duke left, she immediately became the main target for the Duke's wife. Using the excuse that Huo Yuhao's mother had contracted an infectious disease, she chased them to the servants' wooden sheds, which were located at the back of the mansion. Furthermore, she cut away all their current sources of income. Huo Yuhao was only 2 when this happened. Huo Yuhao's mother didn't have a healthy body from the start, thus the arduous lifestyle that they had to live in caused her body to gradually collapse. What's more, the servants under the control of the Duke's wife would frequently suppress her, causing her to suddenly die from her illness when Huo Yuhao was 4,000 years ago, the Duluo continent collided with the Sun-Moon continent, which had drifted over due to the Western Ocean. This resulted in the Duluo continent's landmass being greatly expanded, but also caused the frequency of wars on the Duluo continent to increase. The Duluo continent had originally been divided into 2 countries 10,000 years ago, the Heaven Do country and the Star Luo country. However, the Duluo continent had now been split into 3 countries. Of the 2, the Star Luo Empire still existed, but the royal family had changed. They had fortunately pacified all of their kingdoms at that time, allowing the entire Star Luo Empire to remain united, and thus resulting in them becoming the strongest force of the 3. However, the Heaven Do Empire was split due to the discord amongst its strong kingdoms. In the end, it was split up into the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Spirit Do Empire. The Sun-Moon continent that had drifted over from the west had both a vast surface area and plentiful resources. It was slightly smaller than the Duluo continent, but it only had a single country, which was the Sun-Moon Empire. War broke out between the two continents almost as soon as they collided. The three countries of the Duluo continent all dispatched allied armies to fight against their common enemy. After nearly 20 years of war, they finally managed to defeat the Sun-Moon Empire. From that point on, they unified the two continents under the Duluo name. The Sun-Moon continent no longer existed, only the Sun-Moon Empire within the Duluo continent was left. However, the Sun-Moon Empire wasn't fully invaded even though it was defeated. They relied on their natural advantages, as well as the conflicting views of the three empires of the Duluo continent, to gradually form a stable, deadlocked situation between the four parties. However, wars still occurred every year, due to the frequent amount of wars that the Duke had to participate in. He spent very little time within the mansion, due to the Duke's wife deliberately concealing the matter. Huo Yuhao's mother was gradually forgotten by the Duke. When the Duke asked about her, his wife merely said that Huo Yuhao's mother had fallen ill. Huo Yuhao's mother had suffered many bitter hardships as she brought him up. When he was 6, he carried out the awakening of his martial soul within the mansion. Martial souls weren't something that everybody on the Duluo continent possessed. Although the Sun-Moon Empire had developed in a different way compared to the other three empires, martial souls were still one of their fundamental concepts. Everyone would naturally have a martial soul that could be awakened at the age of 6. A martial soul could be anything, from a tool to an animal. Beast-type martial souls were referred to as beast souls, while all other martial souls that weren't beast souls were collectively known as tool souls. However, there were naturally some martial souls that possessed mutations. Thus, they were exceptions to this rule. After the awakening of one's martial soul, a small amount of people would have a special power along with their martial soul. This power was called soul force. Only people who possessed soul force had the ability to cultivate and to become the noblest profession on the Duluo continent, a soul master. Soul masters were separated into 9 different ranks. From lowest to highest, they were Soul Scholar, Soul Master, Soul Grandmaster, Soul Elder, Soul Ancestor, Soul King, Soul Emperor, Soul Sage, Soul Duluo, and titled Duluo. Soul Masters would increase in power as their soul rank increased. If one managed to reach the highest level of the titled Duluo rank, one would have the terrifying ability to both move the mountains and seas, as well as even shift the stars.